channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. Yeah, the Papa Sun's in the background as is my stepladder. The Christmas tree is where the Papa Sun goes. Normally that goes in my living room. This is, if you hadn't mentioned Christmas tree, this is the 30th of November when I'm filming this. So yeah, the separation between this stuff is a little large. So we're going to be looking at this book. So this is Anne of Inglside. This is the 6th of the Anne of Green Gables novels. So in this book, we've jumped further into it. The children, and now they're living at Inglside. She has, how many children? She has the little boy who was born in the last book, which is James, also known as Jem. Walter, who is her next son. Then she has a pair of twins, which are Diana and what is her other daughter's name? Let me see if I can find the name of her other daughter. I can find it. Let's see. All right, so here we go. Here are the children here. Jem, Walter, where are the girls? The girls' names. She has a 2-year-old at this point by the name of Shirley, and that is in fact a boy. She ends up with 3 boys and 3 girls. So right now she just has the 3 boys and the 2 girls. And let me see if I can find the other girls' names here. Hard because she's named after Diana Barry. Let's see if I can find her another. It's like, where on earth is that name in here? They call her Nell. So that is primarily what she is called in the books. Let me see. That's Walter. So what happens in the beginning of the book is Anna's pregnant. And she's had trouble with pregnancy, so they try to send their kids away. And Walter is really, really sensitive. So I can't remember how old he is. He's got to be in elementary school kind of age at this. Because of course they go to a one-room schoolhouse. This is still Prince Edward Island. This is still the late 1800s. Yeah, it's got to be the late 1800s. The reason I say that is because the last book in the series, which is Rilla of Ingleside, takes place during World War I. So, they send Walter off to stay with other friends. He freaks out and comes all the way home. And he's afraid his mother is going to die. Because that's what, again, Anne's had issues. Because, again, her first child was a stillbirth. And so and of course, this is the time period where this is a home birth because that's what they were. Of course, Gilbert's a doctor, so that helps. But she's had issues. So Walter comes home and they've had his baby sister, which is, I can't remember her actual first name. Marilla is her middle name, and they call her Rilla. So I think it might be Ethel, but I'm not positive off the top of my head. So in this book, besides that's kind of the first thing that happens, though I'm trying to think. Actually, it starts off with Anne back at Green Gables because her and Gilbert were there for Gilbert's father's funeral. So his mother had died previously, now his father was gone, so she was back there. And I think Gilbert had already gone back to Glen St. Mary, which is where they live. Ingleside is the name of their house. So throughout this book, they're dealing with a couple things, including the big thing is Gilbert's great aunt, they call her great aunt Mary, though I think she's Gilbert's father's cousin. She's an elderly lady, she's wealthy, she lives in Charlottetown, and she's staying with them and she will not go away. And she drives them crazy. She's a stuck-up, kind of nasty old woman who's criticizing Anne, who calls Anne Annie, doesn't like laughter, insults her children, and eventually they throw her, if I remember correctly, uh, a birthday party, and she freaks out and leaves. Yes, and Susan Baker, who is Anne's, I don't know how to exactly call her. She's a housekeeper. She's a cook. She helps look after the kids. And she obviously is live in, and she's actually very very close to Shirley. Anne was very very sick when baby Shirley was born. Yes, again, boy. Um, and so Susan really looked after him, and in many ways, he's more. Shirley is more um, Susan's son than he is Anne's in many cases, and this is brought up in kind of the other books. But kind of the course of this book is the children are really young. Um, they're friends, obviously, with their neighbors back at the House of Dreams, which is yes what Anne still calls it. She gives birth to Rilla. The kids they have all these issues with the great aunt. I'm trying to else remember. It's been a couple days since I've read this. Various people get married. um, yeah, they still call her Nan. This is the second twin, so I'm assuming Nan is not her full name, and it is bugging me. I need to look down at the names of her children because it is bugging me. Because again, let me see through this. Yes, Aunt Mary Maria is the name of the basically Gilbert's second cousin. Um, so she drives them crazy. She drives Susan nuts. She hates Susan. She hates Susan. Because Susan is too familiar with the family for a servant. Um, but again, she and Anne are friends, even though Susan works for them. She's very close to the children. She's been around the children since they were babies. She's been with Anne and Gilbert for a very long time at this point, for many years at this point, and she does in fact stay with them. Um, so but again, they normally eat together as a family. That includes Susan, which again, her Aunt Mary Maria despises this, and she's too familiar, which is just kind of funny. Let me see if I can find the twins' names. The kids are still pretty young at this point because Shirley is 2, which means the girls aren't much older. But I think they're in school at this point. They constantly call her Nan, which is all that she looks like. Let me see the twins. Twins' names, because we have Diana and this book has a lot of the antics of the children when they're very young. Here we go. Let's see. We have Jem and Walter. Let's see if I can find the names of the girls here. Because this is Anne coming home. And let's see if I can. Still Jem. Jem is still very close to his mother. Because he's the oldest. Lots of Susan. Eh. All right. But I'll have to look up for the next review to figure out what Nan's full name is. So, but you also have issues with Jem getting into trouble with some of the more lowly boys in town, which are the Drews, and he actually runs. He hides somewhere, and they're searching all over for him. They're all like little kids. I think they're all under the age of, I think Jem at this point, which is the oldest, is probably no more than 10. And then Walter is he's the sweet, sensitive one. And then, of course, they have baby Rilla, who in the last book is a teenager. Why the rest of them are mostly adults. But we'll get into Rilla of Ingleside later. That was the last book. I finished that last night. So that's mostly what this book is. It's, as you can see, you have the pictures of the twins here in the front. So those are the Diana and Nell. Nell is the redhead. Diana has the dark hair. And Anne is the adult. So, and Jem and the girls just kind of, the kids just kind of getting into trouble. And them dealing with Aunt Mary Maria and the various different gossiping going on about town. I think that's primarily what's in this book. It's very good, but again, they have a little bit of talk about politics and cats and kittens and trouble and just the kids learning being lied to and just kind of their relationships with different people, including, of course, the Fords, which are the ones who are living, who from our previous book, who had, Anne had helped marry after, turns out, the husband, I can't remember her name, wasn't her husband, was her brother-in-law, but nonetheless. So that's really what this is. It's kind of a, I think this, I'm trying to think, no, because not. This is very similar to, I think, blah, blah, blah. Anne of the Windy Populars, because this was published later. Trying to see if there's giving me the saying this episode. We were originally published here. Yeah, this was published in 39. So this is one of the last. This is the last Anne book she actually wrote and published. Because Rainbow Valley and Rilla of Ingleside were part of the originals. So, but this is book 6. So that's really what this is. It's kind of it's an introduction and a placeholder before you get to Rainbow Valley, which talks about more of the kids being a little bit older, and other things going on. Fantastic book, but similar to some of the other books, Anne is getting older. You do have Anne giving birth, the talk of death, periodically. Various, obviously, these books, they do talk about religion, Protestants, Methodists, certain people's hatred of it. I'm trying not to confuse this with Rainbow Valley. Some other interesting stuff happens in Rainbow Valley. We'll get to that. But again, it's a very interesting book. But this is the last book she wrote, because it came out in 1939, and she died. LM Montgomery died in, I think, 42 is when she died. And no, she did not die of old age. It's debated how she died, whether she just kind of died of a heart attack or she committed suicide. It's debated even among the family. So, because she had a miserable life. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting book, very inventive, very similar to the other books where they're episodic. So you could read them chapter by chapter because you have different things going on. Some between Anne, a lot of the first half of the book very much focuses on them dealing with Aunt Mary Maria, who is driving everybody crazy, including Gilbert, but his pride in family will not let him send her away. And Gilbert's just very, very meek in that. He's a good man. Him and Anne are still madly in love, but great Aunt Mary Maria is putting us straight on a lot of things. And of course, Anne is still too sweet to try to actually get rid of her. Susan is not. Susan hates her. She makes it very clear. But of course, this woman treats her very, very badly and insults her at every turn. Because again, she's too familiar as a servant to the family. But eventually, great Aunt Mary Maria goes away. And the other children have various different scrapes and things. And it's a fun book to start seeing Anne's children. So this is really very much of an introduction to Anne's children when they're very young. At least most of them. You really do not get to meet and see much of Rilla until the book that focuses on her. So even in Rainbow Valley, Rilla she's still pretty young in those books. I don't think she's mentioned all that much. But nonetheless, that is the end of this video. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be finishing with Rainbow Valley and Rilla of Inglside, and then I will go over Chronicles of Avonlea, the Further Chronicles of Avonlea. There's another book in between of the short stories, and then the Blythes Quoted, which actually came out in '09. So, and that's the the 4 short story collections that focus on Prince Edward Island that LM Montgomery wrote, and Anne and Gilbert show up in some of them. So does Marilla, and these are the loosely connected to their inspiration for the Road to Avonlea TV series. So that's, I think it's just the Chronicles of Avonlea and possibly the Further Chronicles of Avonlea are the inspiration for that book series. And yes, I will, by the time you see this, you will get to them. I still have to finish watching season 2, let alone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those still have to be done. But nonetheless, I will be moving on to the Boxcar Children after I finish with this series, and then Wings of Fire. Trying to think when you guys are watching this. And there's a variety of different, I do my theme months. So there's coming in some history of Ellis Island and Angel Island and cooking and the Beauty and the Beast and mysteries and all sorts of things. And of course, hopefully around August, I'll start reviewing more homeschooling stuff. So like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Check out what I got, and look forward to more. Thank you.